أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome to the Majlis's interview. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Yasir Ukhtar. For more information on the Majlis Ash-Shura, you can go to PhillyMajlis.com, PhillyMajlis.com, Phillymajlis, inshallah. What is a cold case? According to the National Institute of Justice, no universal definition of a cold case currently exists. Some jurisdictions consider a case to be cold when investigative leads have seemingly been exhausted. Others consider the length of time that has elapsed since the crime occurred. For example, 1, 3, or 5 years. Now, with us today, joining us for this Majlis interview, is Keyna Drinks, who is the founder and president of Still Waiting on Justice Advocates, which is a nonprofit organization based in Philadelphia. Uh, Good evening, Ms. Drinks,
Good evening.
and thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So to get right to it, what was the impetus or driving force for starting SWOJA or Still Waiting on Justice Advocates?
Well, unfortunately, in 2011, my husband was murdered on the streets of Philadelphia. It was mistaken identity, and the case had what they would consider to be have gone cold. So, it took about maybe a little over 6 years before they caught the people that were responsible, and then a little over another 5 years for me to get to court to get justice. So the case had went cold. And what made me do it, while I was going through the waiting and everything, I realized there wasn't a lot of people that I could really talk to, because sometimes when a murder occurs, sometimes people just look at you like, hey, after a few months, you should be over it.
Hmm.
And I was not, and I just saw where there was really a need for people to have someone to talk to, about, when they're going through the situation, when they're going through that cold case process of the case being cold.
Hmm. So the impetus was more so because of your husband, uh, unfortunate situation being murdered, and you just that spawned you to say, you know what, I need to do something about this because other people had nobody to turn to really like that, and so no nonprofit like that who focused on these things. So that was the reason you said, you know what, let me start my own organization to focus on that.
Yeah, well, my first thoughts were, to join an organization of advocates, for
Okay.
victims. But then people start reaching out to me that I knew, that had also lost loved ones, and they were saying to me, "What did you do? How did you do that?" Because I did get a lot of, news, uh, publicity, and I never thought about it. I was just actually doing what I thought I should do. So when I saw the need of people reaching out to me and also feeling like they're giving up, I said, I want to do something. I want to help others. So that was the driving force for me.
Okay. Now, as I understand, you definitely don't. Again, it's an advocacy organization, so you definitely don't get into investigating crimes or going doing anything like that. So, can you tell us some of the specific functions of the organization? So just the specifics.
Well, one of the main objectives is to bridge the communication gap between the victim's family and the authorities. Because, I've talked to people and they say, oh, I haven't talked to the homicide detective in 2 years, or I haven't talked to him in 3 years. And it's a lack of communication. It's like a sense of giving up, like they're not going to do anything. And I want people to have hope. I want people to have hope, because I truly believe, and I have learned that through certain processes, cold cases can be warmed up.
Hmm.
They can be warmed up. So, I just want to help. That's what we do, help bridge, the families with the authorities, and, just help them keep the communication gap open with the police department and also keep it alive with the general public, you know. And we do that, by going back, to the location where it occurred, giving out flyers, reminding people, hey, as a reward, someone was killed at this location, reminding them is a reward. If you have information that the police do not already have that can lead up to an arrest and a conviction, you can get up to $20,000. Those incentives are good to remind people about, because you never know, and it could be 5 years later, and it could be weighing on somebody's conscience, and they could
Exactly.
possibly come forth and say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna say something, because you just have to hope and pray, but you have to keep it back alive. So you go back to the media, you try to get it in the paper, you go back on the show. TV has Philadelphia has crime fighters, and like I said, just go back to the neighborhood, give out information, and just remind people this person
Yeah.
was killed here. This person was
Hmm.
killed here, because honestly, it's so many murders, and when it goes cold, it can be forgotten.
Unfortunately, yeah. Yeah. I mentioned in the monologue about the term cold case, or the phrase cold case is, how does, since there is no lack of, or shall I say there is there's no specific definition, as I mentioned, how does that impact your services? I mean, or maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But like, since there's no universal definition, does it have any kind of impact on the services you provide?
Well, cold cases should never close. A cold case should always be open, and that's what the police will tell you. They'll say, oh, we're working on it, it's never, but the impact, as far as the impact that it has on our organization, cold cases, the bottom line is constantly contacting the police department and letting them know that you care about your loved one. You have to let them know that you care about your loved one, because, like I said, it's so many murder cases that it can. And I've heard a police captain say this himself. They often fall by the wayside because they're overloaded. But as a family member, if you keep in contact with them, they know that somebody cares about this person. Somebody cares about this person.
Yeah,
Somebody's calling and inquiring about this person.
yeah. Now I'm gonna go back to the National Institute of Justice. I'm gonna quote them again real quick. And so I know you're not law enforcement, but it says, I'm looking at their pamphlet they put out a few years ago. The term cold case, get into the weeds a little bit with this. The term cold case should be used with caution. The National Sheriff's Association states law enforcement officials, again, I know that's not you, should be
Uh-huh.
sensitive in their use of the potentially painful word cold,
Uh-huh.
and may want to consider explaining to survivors why specific language is actually used. And so I'm wondering, like, what's your opinion on that? I mean, should we say unresolved? Is it, in your experience, have that been an issue with families? Like, don't use that term, that you don't use that phrase, cold case, excuse me, or is it not really that much of an issue in your opinion?
Well, for me personally, people have every right to feel how they feel about certain words being used. For me personally, unsolved cold cases, it doesn't matter. All I'm looking for is it for it to be resolved. That
Right.
doesn't
Yeah.
that word language doesn't bother me. I haven't really ran into people who said, "Oh, I'm totally offended by that cold case," because the bottom line is it's cold. It's sitting there and nobody's working on it. That language cold, I don't dwell on that too much. And like I said, people have every right to feel how they feel. And if I run across someone that feel that way, then I'll use the term unresolved. If
Okay.
they feel that
Hmm.
way, then that's the term that I would use with them. But if they don't, if I notice that it doesn't really bother them, then it's a cold case, because I do use it. And like I said, I even say cold cases can be warmed up, or I can say unresolved cases can be resolved.
Okay. Cool. Now the National Institute of Justice, again, they put together about 23 recommendations for police departments. So I just wanted to
Mhm.
I wanted to highlight a couple of them and kind of get your take on them. What do you think about them? So I'm not gonna read all of them, just a couple of them. One, this is number 7. Limit,
Okay.
again, this is recommendations the National Institute of Justice, which is under the Department of Justice, put out for police departments. Number 7, limit investigators to actively investigating no more than 5 cold cases at any one time, right? Then 12B, include a detailed plan for communication with victims and victims' families in a cold case unit protocols. What say you about that? Those two.
Well, when it comes down to like limiting it, let me start by saying all cold cases are important. And however, as of now, we are very new and our focus is on unsolved murder cases that happened 3 years or more in Philadelphia. But when it comes down to them saying that, they want to limit it to like 5 cases, it's a flip side to that. Like, it can be good because you may be able to get more done. But then at the same time, some cases could get lost on the wayside with that and just permanently never even get tapped on with that. So that's like for me, I wouldn't want to see it limited. I would just want to see it, just let's try to work on all the cases that we can. I wouldn't want to see it. I wouldn't want to see it limited to 5 because if you say 5 and then it's going to be like some family members going to be like, well, how did you choose with 5?
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
could be, it's a touchy situation. It's a touchy situation. So I don't think that I would be opposed to that.
Okay. And then number 12B, and again, I read it again, include a detailed plan for communication with victims and victims' families in a cold case unit protocols. What's your take on that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'll
Say that
say it
again.
again. Include, this is 12B. Um, include a detailed plan for communication with victims and victims' families in a cold case with protocols. It seems like that's right up kind of like your alley, like because obviously some police departments seem like they don't have a specific plan for cold cases, like with as pertains to communication with the victims' families. So they include that in here, the NIJ to police departments. I just wanted to get your take on it.
Uh, the NIJ, and that's number 12.
Yeah, 12B. Yeah, include a detailed plan for communication with victims and victims' families in a cold case unit protocols. Out of 20, is out as 23 of them. This is 12B, I believe.
Oh, helping families consistently with that, with the enforcement. Um, I would say with that I don't particularly like that because I don't think that you could tap on helping all the families with that.
Hmm.
I don't think that you can tap on helping, all the families with that. I mean, I'm just like very opposed to anything where they're doing anything like, where, oh, we're going to, what do they call it? The NI.
NIJ, National Institute of Justice.
Yeah. It's nothing through that advocacy that considered like, anything like that. I don't personally,
Well,
you know.
I kind of took it, tell me if I'm wrong. I kind of just took it as they were recommending again to police departments that they should have I thought this would be more up your alley, like a detailed plan. Like basic, how are you going to communicate with the victims' families?
Well, that part, I'm sorry, I
That's what it seemed
apologize. The
like.
part
That's what it
about
was
them
about.
communicating with the family, that's excellent. That's great. I think that part right there is a great idea. Detailing it out to this is what I'm all about. Let's communicate with the family because the family don't know what the police department is doing. So I think that part, the B part of it, is absolutely great.
Okay. Okay.
Communicate with the family, let them know exactly what's going on, with the protocol, because that's something that we do not know. And also it makes you feel like you're a part of it. It doesn't make it, it makes you feel like at least they're contacting and letting you know, hey, yeah, we do care about this. So that part right there, yes. But the first part of it, no.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now, obviously, you're based in the Philly area. I believe it's Media, PA. Um, is that your
Where
base?
we're
Technically?
Yeah, well, the office is in Media, PA. Yes, but we work in Philadelphia. All our work is in Philadelphia.
So you don't. So if somebody contact you in reference to South Jersey, Delaware, you would kindly decline, or
Well,
you wouldn't be able to help them.
eventually, like I said, all cases are important. You know what I mean? And I don't want to, but eventually, because of the manpower that I have, we're just focused on Philadelphia. But I would love to see it grow. If people would come and volunteer, this is why we set it up. If people would come and want to be a part of it and volunteer and we grow, I would love to branch out in the tri-state area. Hey, even the US eventually,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
right now, because of the manpower, we're local. We're
Okay,
dealing with
okay,
Philadelphians. We're dealing with Philadelphia
okay.
and the murders in Philadelphia.
So, all right. So, since you said the murders in Philadelphia, so when we say cold case or unsolved crimes, it could be murder, missing person, unidentified deceased person, undetermined death, criminal sexual assault. All right, you just focusing on cold cases that pertains to murder or shall I say killings.
Unfortunately, right now, like I said, because of SWOJA is fairly new, and right now, everything is a priority, and every crime is important. I want to be clear about that. Sexual assault, all of that is very important, but we're just focusing on cold cases of murder victims. Cold cases of murder victims, 3 years or more, and you haven't heard anything. It's just murder right now, murder victims. And now, if someone was sexually assaulted and murdered, yes, that would be someone that's eligible. But it's just sexual assault or not little crimes, but crimes like that. We're not dealing with that right now.
Okay. And then NIJ also had a survey, that's a few years ago, but like 2011. So I don't know how accurate this is now, but this is only 7% of surveyed police departments. So not all police departments in America, but
Uh-huh.
the ones who were surveyed.
Uh-huh.
Only 7% of the departments in the US have a dedicated cold case unit,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
only 20% have formal protocols for initiating cold case investigations. Now, how does that create a major challenge for families who are seeking justice, of course, in your opinion?
Well, as the last time I checked in Philadelphia, we have eight we have eight cold case investigators. Now, just
Hmm.
as from 2014 to now, it has been like 2,045 murders, like 2,000 from last year to now, 2,045 murders, eight investigators. That's
Hmm.
like not a lot. How is it frustrating to us is because, of course, we would like to see more investigators. We would love to see more investigators. I mean, eight investigators, that's like very overwhelming. And then with murders coming every day, I hear sometimes they say they have to take those investigators and put them on a current case
Hmm.
because they're so overwhelmed. But eight investigators is just like, that's just not enough. It's like 240 thousand murders across the country. I think since like 2014 to now is like so many. It's like the eight investigators just in Philadelphia, and we had 2,045 murders the last time I looked. That's just not enough. It's just not
Hmm.
enough. That could be a little frustrating. And this is where we're there to try to encourage. This is what SWAJA is for, to try to encourage family members to hang in there, keep hope, and don't give up. Because you will give up. You will give
Yeah.
up because it can appear that no one cares about your loved one.
So, what's your take on witnesses being like nervous or not too confident in law enforcement or the judicial process to come forward with a possibility they may be targeted or nothing's really going to happen? They ain't going to do anything. They
Yeah.
acting like they want to do something. They're not going to do things. Like what could the community and also what could the community and or law enforcement do to facilitate people coming forward more regularly?
I totally understand people being nervous because that's a major issue with getting witnesses to come forth. But if the police could just do a very thorough job of making sure that those people are anonymous, and
Hmm.
also if the general public, like the community, if the community could just do a better job on reporting crime. Sometimes things, and it's okay to dial that tip line and don't say who you are. It's okay to do that, and we have to get better with that, because the silence is not good. The silence is
Yeah.
not good. And you don't never want to get the impression to murderers, or should I say the bad people, you don't want to give them the impression, hey, nobody's going to say anything. It's been 2 years. I could kill somebody because in 2 years they're going to forget about it. They ain't going to work on them, or a year. You don't want to give that impression. So that's cold case is a real good uh deterrence for crime. Just working on it, letting them know we're going to
Hmm.
hunt you till you die.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's I feel like the general public, the community, has to do a better job with. We have to do a better job with talking,
Yeah.
or you know, at reporting crimes, as you will, reporting murders, if you will. You may know the person, but right is right and wrong is wrong. And if it happened to you, you're going to want someone to tell. But
Yeah.
I just would like to see the police department or the legal department in general do a better job just making these people secure about being anonymous, because that's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very, very important.
Now you
Because,
mentioned tips. I'm sorry.
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead. It's fine.
You mentioned tips, and I see that earlier in 2024, the PA State Police, they started the PSP tips,
Mm-hmm.
which allows the public to give anonymous tips, as you just mentioned,
Right.
that will help solve a cold case. Now that's Pennsylvania in general, not Philadelphia
Mm-hmm.
specifically.
Yeah.
Toll-free number and all that. What are your thoughts about that, a new initiative in the state of PA?
I think that's great that the state is doing that. But I'm not sure if they do, but I don't think they do. But I think if they add a reward onto that, it would be even
Mm,
better.
yeah,
Like Philadelphia itself has a reward. But if the state would add a reward onto that, I think it would be much, much better. Anonymous reward, and if it leads to an arrest and a conviction, I think if the state do that also, that it'll really be a great plan. But I think it's a good thing.
okay. Now, according to Philly Unsolved Murders, as you mentioned earlier, there's like over 2,000 unsolved murders in Philly
Right,
alone. So that's
right.
not just unsolved cases of crime. That's specifically just
That's just
murder.
Philadelphia. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's pretty alarming, as you mentioned. I wanted to read one real quick.
Hmm.
This is a case that's actually has been solved. Just kind of get your take on it. Obviously, it's not a lot of information, but this is Sakur Islam. That was the
Hmm.
brother's name. So Sakur Islam was discovered inside of a burgundy 2011 Nissan Altima on Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022
Hmm.
at 9:43 p.m. Philadelphia police officers responded to the scene and found Sakur sitting in the driver's seat of the vehicle, which had crashed into an unoccupied building. Sakur had been shot. Medical personnel arrived and pronounced him deceased at the scene. Sakur Salam was 25 years old. He resided on Theodore Avenue in Philadelphia, PA. A suspect was arrested by Philadelphia police on May 1st, 2023, so a little less than a year later. In reference to the deaths of Corey Salam, the suspect was charged with murder and related offenses. Case outcome pending trial. So how do you prioritize cases that people ask for assistance with? Like, how do you, I mean, do you prioritize or do you just, these cases like that, like, do you deep down say, or within the board or the workers within SWOJA say, all right, that may be some kind of foul play by the actual deceased person? Do
Hmm.
you get into that and prioritize? Oh, no, it's like this was a child that was murdered. We're going to prioritize that with all of our energy. or do it just first come, first serve in reference to cases like you mentioned earlier with murder? How do you prioritize, the organization giving assistance?
Well, first, let me say every murder matters. How it happened, that's not for us to deal with. How it happened, that's the police. But you come with us, every murder matters. You know, and I tell people, because sometimes I've heard someone say, well, they didn't live the best life. That's not important.
Hmm.
Every murder matters. Nobody has a right to kill anyone. So, with that being said, um, I can't prioritize. We don't have a lot of manpower, but I can't really see myself trying to turn down any case. We'll try to work on it and everything, like far as trying to get it back alive with you and getting it back. I go to the location, like I said, and make up flyers, and the flyers have the picture of the deceased and reminding people about the reward that the city will give. You could even have a visual down there again if you want to, just reminding people that someone was killed. But nobody's going to be turned down with SWOJA. I can't. I'm in a situation where we can't we can't prioritize because every murder matters.
I see. Hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah, I
So,
just can't see how to do it. I just would love for people to want to be volunteers so we can grow and work on many
yeah.
more at a time, because it's not so much that you can do at one time. But everybody will, with us, everybody will, we'll try to get to, who we can. And like I said, it is sort of like first come, first serve, like that. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay.
And that's
Okay.
that we have to do, you know.
Hmm. Sorry. So, someone like yourself as a community advocate, what is the most delightful or gratifying part of law enforcement resolving a case? And what's the most, it's like a two-part question. And what's the most difficult aspect of the whole process with regards to you helping families consistently touch base with law enforcement? So the first one, again, what is the most gratifying part of law enforcement resolving? Say they found out a case is solved, like the one I mentioned with Sakura Slim, and say you was helping a family with that, say with a
Mhm.
particular case. What is most gratifying out of that to you?
For me, I don't consider any any part of this process to be delightful or gratifying. But
Mm,
because of the pain that I see and the pain that I experience personally, going through it. But I can say that justice served for a victim, loved ones bring me, I want to say, gratefulness and reassurance of the
mm,
criminal justice system.
I see. Mm. And the second part, what's the most difficult aspect of the whole process
the most the
and
most
helping?
difficult part the most difficult part is just knowing the pain that they're going through, for me, because I've personally experienced it. So just knowing the pain that they have to endure, even though we're getting justice, because the real justice would be for me that they never got killed. But just knowing that you have to relive it, especially
Mm,
after so many years went past. You just trying to heal and you still have to relive it. That part right there, that's a little difficult, you know but
mm.
you
Well,
know
can you touch on for a quick second, or how much time you need, on the importance of family uh, making sure they stay in contact with the homicide detective or detectives? Can you tell us how
that
important that is?
that is so important. And I mean, you would not believe how important it is. We're actually dealing with a case now that we have, and the young man was killed 4 years ago in December. So December made 4 years, and the parent has not spoken with the police department in 4 years. In
Mm,
4 years, is this is that's unbelievable. And I have to say, it's not just the police on this. This is why SWAJA wants to come in and help. You have to reach out to the police department and show concern. So when we encourage this person to call, you know, it's like it never stopped. The detective jumps right on it and says, "Oh well, you know, I want you to go back on crime fighters." That's one thing, but you still making him start acting on it. Why was there no communication for 4 years?
So you're
That's
saying, just to be clear, so you're saying somebody was killed in their family,
right.
and that was just from that they just never
I
they
said, when was
never
the
reached
last
out.
time you spoke to the detective, the homicide detective, on your son's case? And the response was 2 weeks after the murder.
Hmm.
And we're on 4 years. And we're on year number 4. Now, so that's just not the police department fault. That's also your fault because the police are busy, out of fairness to the police. You know, I need to call you just like I expect you to call me. I
Yeah,
don't care if you're going to tell me every time that I call, I'm sorry, we don't have anything yet. Tell me something.
yeah,
Tell me
yeah.
something. And I was in shock when they told me this. But when I encourage them to call, is what SWOJA does, because we do help you with that as well. We help you get back into, on the website, you'll see is questions, certain questions that we ask because we want to help you get back into who your detective is, make sure they're currently on the case. They may have retired. These are things you need to know. You should know who your detective is, and you should know what's going on with the case. It's when the call was made, this detective responded like they were working on it yesterday, but there was no
Hmm.
communication. There was no communication. It's no way that you should let that much time go past without calling about your loved one. So it's very, very important because now that's back on his radar already. Just that one call. And there's other things that's why it's going to do, but that's back on the radar,
So
because
I
it's like, oh wow,
so,
somebody's calling.
so I hear it's like warming up, like you said earlier,
It's
right? It's
warming
warming
up.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They had a
So it's
couple of answers. Hey, we have to investigate someone. We have to go question someone. It's like it's
yeah,
warming back up. It's warming back
yeah.
up, but it was sitting
So it seems
because
like the two of the main things you do is SWAJA does is help keep the case, the cold case, the unresolved, the unsolved case out there. You help the family through the families, of course. You advocate with the families for the families to do this and make sure they connect with and stay in connection with their the homicide detective. Is
right.
that like the main
That's the main
things you
thing.
do?
We encourage the family member because we can't go to the police about your family member. They don't have to tell us anything. But we're
Yeah.
going to we're going to stand by you, and we're going to encourage you make the calls, whatever. If you don't get them by a call, make the visit, and make sure that they know that you're still concerned about your loved one and you have every right for an update. You have every right to get an update.
So
And
don't
then
worry about nagging them. Don't worry about
don't,
nagging
don't
them
worry
and
about
like,
nagging them. Nagging them is, we want to nag you. I hate to say that, but it's going to be some nagging. But this was a quick response, though. That's what was surprising. After 4 years, it was a very quick response. It wasn't. Sometimes you might have to go through a long process. I know some people say I can't even get my detective. I don't know where my detective is, or something like that. But this particular one is still the same detective, and he was like, "Oh wow, yeah." So you start picking it up like it never stopped, but the
hmm.
communication stopped because there's no way a loved one dies and you don't call about your loved one at 4 years. So I can't just put that on the Philadelphia Police Department. That you have to take some accountability as well. You have to make that call, and I don't care.
Yeah.
I say call every week. I
Hmm.
say call every week. I'm sorry, I say call every week. If you don't want to call every week, call every 2 weeks, but call often. See what's going
Hmm.
on
Yeah.
and go back to
Well,
those locations.
well, with that being said, if someone is interested in SWAJ's needed services for families in the community at large, or they would just like to learn more about the organization, what should they do?
Please visit our website, which is www.swaja.org. So that's www.swoja.org. Or you can also call us at 215-798-4948, and someone will get back to you.
Okay, cool. Now, is there anything you would like to clarify or highlight before we close out? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I just want to make it crystal clear. SWAJA is definitely there to support you through the process of trying to get justice for your loved one and keeping it alive about what happened to your loved one. But we are not out to solve any murders. We're not out to solve any murders. We're not out to point fingers at anyone because we don't know. That's the police job. That's not what we're doing. If you do have some information that you think the police should know about, that we strongly encourage you to call 215-546-TIPS. That's 215-546-8477. We strongly encourage you to call them. SWOJA is strictly for the support of a family member bridging the gap between themselves and the authorities and keeping it alive within the public eye, as far as through the media, through the newspapers, through flyers, and just reminding you about the reward, because that's a great incentive. People forget about the reward because the police don't talk about it that much. So, you have to go out there yourself, and the flyer, would have their picture on it, and it would have, that you could get a reward up to $20,000 in Philadelphia if you lead to an arrest and it leads to a conviction, or information that the police did not already have too. We need to be clear about that.
Okay. Okay.
And I just also would like to thank Majlis for having me, because
Majlis.
this
Majlis. The
I apologize.
Majlis. That's
Majlis
cool.
for having me, because this is what we want. We want the word to get out, and like I said, SWOJ is just getting started, and this is the kind of platform that really helps. And I hope even today that I've reached someone and helped someone, and give us a call and let us try to help you through it. You're not by yourself, because I know how it feels to feel like you're alone. The police can't. The police may not can call you every day, but you can call them.
Yeah.
You can call them. So that's what it's all about, helping others, and just standing in unity and just keeping hope alive, and knowing that cold cases can be warmed up. And when I say warmed up, they can even get hotter than that and get solved, because it happened to me. It happened to me, and I did lose faith at one time, but it happened to me. So it can happen.
Yeah.
Justice was served.
Yeah. Okay, well, it was a pleasure. And it's a tough topic, of course, but it needed conversation. So we appreciate all the valuable information you shared, and yeah, appreciate it. Thank you so much, Miss Drinks.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate
Cool.
it, Mr. Scott.
That was Miss Keyna Drinks of SWOJA, still waiting on Justice Advocates. You heard her. Alhamdulillah, check out the website. Give her a call if you spread the information, so somebody can give a call to the organization and see if they get some kind of assistance. Stand on the homicide detectives, keeping the information out there, inshallah. And so again, you can always go to phillymajlis.com, PhillyMajlis.com, and we'll close out with a short prayer. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر صدق الله العظيم